Ancient Overlord. A sword has been passed down for centuries in the royal lineage of a prosperous and long-living kingdom. Legend has it that the gem in its hilt glows bright red when it absorbs the blood of 10,000 men and bestows immortality upon the bearer. The last king to wield it, however, cared less for the immortality and more for the welfare of his subjects. One day his beloved queen passed away during childbirth, as did the child. Upon hearing that his wife and child were dead, he was stricken with grief, and coupled with his old age, the royal lineage was set to die out. In his mad obsession with extending the life and power of his country, he took up the sword and slaughtered subjects and countrymen alike. If I am to be the last ruler, then I shall simply never die. Tens, hundreds, thousands of deaths at the hands of the king, and the gem was close to reaching its full brilliance. Finally, his heart unable to take the burden any longer, the king died without reaching his goal. If he had just reached the pregnant woman in front of him! Blade of Treachery. The two sisters were a perfect pair of walking mannequins. In no way could you tell they were mechanical. State-of-the-art technology gave them the gift of life, of laughter, of joy, of satisfaction. But they could not cry. They were never meant to cry. Being mere dolls, they could not feel. They could be sad, but not feel sadness. Sadness was unknowable to them. Even the death of a loved one. Even as their creator succumbed to disease, they felt nothing, as if their creator had just disappeared from the face of the earth. One warm spring day, a stray cat approached and greeted them. Covered in scars, riddled with disease, and thin as a rail, they took it in and cared for it. Ah, what a fuss! Their tender care rejuvenated it, and in time regained its health. From that day on, that cat became a fixture in their daily lives. Every day, it would beg for food, affection, and praise. Ah, what a fuss! Winter's cold blew into the house as it staggered in from outside. With a weak meow, the cat's strength slipped, and it fell limply to the floor. The younger shook it again and again. The elder called for it again and again. But in the end, not a single cry, not a single response came. Something in the twins, something deep in their hearts, broke. And from that day on, they felt nothing at all. Beastbane. Once upon a time there were 3 brothers in a kingdom. The second of the 3 was a mighty general leading the army. The army was very violent and feared by everyone. The general loved wars. He liked seeing burning cities and rolling corpses. The general dedicated his life not to conquer, but to destroy. Soldiers trained like machines destroyed all the villages and cities and countries for the general. The mighty general saw that and laughed a vulgar laugh. The army marched on. They destroyed the winter country, the eastern country, the southern country indiscriminately. Obeying the absolute orders of the mighty general, for years and years they killed and 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 killed. Eventually the army reached a certain country. They pierced the people in the city, the armies, the prince with their spears, and killed them. In the end, a general begged for his life while crying, but he was killed right away. The general's face seemed familiar. The soldiers tried to remember, but the general's daughter appeared and they were absorbed in killing her and did not think about it again. Earthworm's Claw. Deep inside the smelly museum, one old scholar sat in the dim archives. Before him was a box tightly sealed. He was told by the former owner, in no uncertain terms, to never open it. Apparently, a fossil that sucks human blood was inside. How foolish. Who would believe something like that in this time and age? You only believed in this superstition because you lived your life surrounded by books. He opened the box. Dust flew wildly. There was one strangely shaped stone inside. Since it had a hilt, it might be an equipment for some kind of ceremony. Or a weapon. Such a fascinating shape. I have to do more research on this. Still, how foolish would you have to be to fear such a thing? The old scholar laughed, while gouging out his left eye in front of the fossil. Faith! There was a famous singer living in a city in the Far East. However, he was no longer able to sing in his later years. A monk appeared by his side out of nowhere and whispered to the singer,
"You should pick up this sword. If you kill a single person, you will be able to sing one song. If you kill 2 people, you will sing 2 songs. Go ahead and sing some unparalleled songs."
The singer picked up the sword from the monk, hid in the night, and slashed at 2 bystanders. The next day, the singer can produce beautiful songs and regained fame and fortune. Afterwards, the singer sang a song for each person he killed and sang 2 for every 2 he killed. He continually attained more fame and fortune. However, his desires could no longer be suppressed. If he killed his most important person, what kind of marvelous song would be produced? And so the singer killed his wife and sang a song. He killed several of his children and sang multiple songs. He killed everyone in his family and he sang and sang and sang. He killed so many people on the streets that he cannot even sing fast enough. He killed and killed and killed and killed. In the end, he didn't sing anything as he killed himself. All that is left is a blood-stained sword. Fool's Embrace. I was saved from that entrapped despair. I was able to abandon that cursed fate. I was able to calm those wrath-filled flames. That day of our meeting changed me. I shall burn the ground to a crisp with my flames. I shall sip blood with my fangs. I shall tear apart thine enemies with my claws. I shall soar through the sky with my wings. If light was to be deprived of thine eyes, if blood was to stain thine skin, if thine sword is heavy, if thine mouth can no longer speak, even if this body burns up, even if these words are taken away, until the ends of this pact, until I lose this warmth. Labyrinth's Whisper. The girl had 2 huge horns. They were just a bit above her ears, and they looked like those of a cow. I saw the root of her horn once, and it looked like something that grew out of her skull. Of course, only she was like that. Everyone else was normal. The kid with the horns was small when she was born. I meant her horns. Well, of course, if she had those huge horns, she's not going to be able to come out from mom's belly. You thought that she would be bullied, didn't you? Then you're completely wrong. That child was stronger than anyone in the village. There were no males that could win against that kid. She did all the work that required brute force, and whenever shades attacked the village, she'd always be the first to fight them. More than that, everyone loved her. She was bright and strong. But this shade that attacked one day was strong. The villagemen were tossed around like rags, and half of them were dead. She with the horns fought as hard as she could, but even she exhausted her power. At last the shade took her body and ripped her horns off. Her scream back then was really something. It was a sound that shook the ground. When everything settled down, I went out to my house and saw that both she and the shade died. Both were bleeding from countless holes throughout their bodies. They, how should I put it, were beautiful, like bright red flowers, even though that's a pretty insensitive comment. That's the answer to your first question, why nobody in this village can hear anything. But I want you to know, none of us blame her. It's much better than being dead. We confirmed with each other in the aftermath, but her last shout seemed to be goodbye. I'm proud that the last sounds we ever heard were her words of parting. Really. Lily Leaf Sword. I love him from the bottom of my heart, and I know he loves me too. Every time our eyes would meet, I could see the looks he'd give me, and I could hear him telling me to keep this hidden from everyone and to hide all my feelings and gifts for him. I kept them locked away in my room. He was my one and only. I don't believe him. The one I thought was my friend seduced and stole him away from me, and he just disappeared and left me all alone. All that's left was me and all the things I hid away and never gave him. I sold them all off in the market. I can't forgive him. He was taken away from me against his will by that woman. He still loves me, I know it, and I have to make him realize how much better and prettier and nice I am than she ever will be. I just have to get rid of her. I have to find her, beat her, maim her, and rip her to pieces. Blinded by rage and jealousy, she took off after the young and naive couple and stabbed and beat them until her sword was warped and bent from the abuse. The next day, she was nowhere to be found, and sticking out of the pile of meat and flesh that was once a couple of humans stood the twisted blade. Countless blacksmiths forged and remade the sword, but no matter how hard they tried, it would never regain its former shape. Moonrise. There is a legend of a blade that cooled an entire country wrapped in a hellish conflagration. Out of the misery of the endless flames came the people's savior, a sword surrounded by thousands and thousands of statues made entirely out of ice. A man searching for the world's legendary weapons came across the sword. He bundled the sword tightly in a long roll of cloth and took it in hand. But as he placed the sword in his pack and left, unbeknownst to him, the sword began to freeze the cloth and soon froze him too. A priestess traveling the world came across the sword. She offered a prayer to the gods and attempted to draw the sword. But frost quickly spread from her fingertip to her arm and all across her body. As she cursed the god she had invoked, the sword froze her too. A slave woman working in a cave came across the sword. Hoping to escape her painful life forever, she gripped the handle of the sword and drew it out. But neither did she freeze, nor was she able to thrust it into her breast. The blade's edge gleamed in the moonlight as she was beaten that night by her quickly freezing master. Nameless Blade. A man is sweating as he chips away at iron ore. The men's joyful singing fills the dark cave. We are workers, we are miners, workers covered in dirt. We mine for metallized spirit days as well. The sound of women working the furnace can be heard in the refinery. The sound of red-hot iron sand taken from the furnace. We are where iron is useless wind. We will make iron my spirit today as well. The sound of hammering for the creation of a strong and powerful sword.
I am a swordsmith, a natural-born swordsmith, a swordsmith who controls steel.
The sound of flesh being slashed apart on the battlefield. The sound of killing whoever. The sound of killing people. Can anyone help me? It hurts. It hurts. Help me, Mother. Nirvana Dagger. Ever since her birth, the girl has been told that she had a fiancé. She was brought up being taught how to be a proper wife, and at night she offered prayers for her fiancé while facing the scenery outside her window. Lord, I eagerly await the day of your arrival. Several other girls lived in the house that she lived in. They were all brought up being taught how to be proper wives, and at night they offered prayers for their fiancés while facing the scenery outside their windows. Lord, I eagerly await the day of your arrival. One day the girls had an argument about whether or not the most brilliant of them will be the only one chosen for their fiancé. The girls stubbornly clung to their claim that they were best suited as a fiancé, and their caretaker spoke to them gently. Don't worry, you will all be Lord's wives. Hearing that, all the girls broke out into smiles. On the day of the wedding, the girls were brought to a place with stone pavements that could be seen from their windows. One dagger was given to the girls. They were told that to meet their fiancé, they have to kill themselves right here. Hearing that, the girls fought for the dagger and committed suicide. Afterwards, a temple was built on where the girls died. The temple's name was the name of their fiancé. Phoenix Dagger. A girl was engaged to a man who roamed the battlefields. The girl held her belief, prayed in the mornings, at noon, on evenings, and hoped that the man would remain safe and sound. Maybe her straightforward prayers did reach. One night, a brightly shining bird appeared in her dreams and left her with these words. The man shall return safe and sound. At the bird's whispered words, the faithful girl cried in joy. However, the brightly shining bird continued in its beautiful voice. His heart won't return. Eventually, the man did come back alive, just as the bird predicted, with a plethora of scars across his formidable body and a beautiful stranger at his side. Even then, the girl ran towards the man, her heart filled with her love until this point. The man was surprised and embraced the girl. However, he eventually fell down. Standing beside the fallen man was the girl, her right hand grasping a blood-stained dagger, her left hand holding what resembled a red-black ripened fruit, the man's heart. His heart shall never wander again. Standing in the pool of blood, the girl kissed the man's heart with an expression of utmost fulfillment and intoxicated happiness, and gave a prayer of thanks. Rebirth. You see this? This here is for me to cut your life away. There's no need to panic. It won't hurt at the beginning. Later, though, I'll make you feel the worst pain imaginable. And nobody screams at the pain, just when they see themselves bleed first. But I'm not going to let you off so easy. This part of the blade here is very sharp and painful, so it's only for after I've had my fun. And your voice will go hoarse like that, and become loud and unintelligible. How irritating. Be quiet, or my hand just might accidentally slip. Don't worry, I'm not going to kill you. Yet. The fun part is drawing all the pain and suffering out as long as you can. You see, humans are surprisingly hard to kill. And besides, we all have 2 eyes, 2 ears, 20 digits, and 144 joints. We can take our time. You ask me why I'm doing this. This is all because of you, don't you know? You're the one framing and torturing your people. You're the one putting their bodies out on display. Oh, you don't remember? Then I'll just make you remember each and everything you've done to my family. One by one by one. Let's begin, shall we? Iron pipe. May 21st. All the money is gone because of the food inflation that caused the war. A lot of injured people helped me out at the church. Yona is slimming down. I want to get her something good to eat. July 15th. Some nice ladies were able to get us some food. They are homeless people like us. We can join any country's salvation groups. They decided to let me go with them as well. Yona is looking very lively today. August 1st. The nice ladies were turned into black monsters by that book. I ran in fear. That old lady isn't human anymore. The adults were all lying. We can't get any money from them, nor can Yona get any examination for her sickness. The city's barricaded by the high walls, and there is no way out. I shouldn't have come here. August 5th. It's very cold today. Summer is a lie. There is a white atmosphere. I decided to lose the monsters, so we hid in the supermarket. We ate some leftover canned food, but that's gone too. Yona kept on coughing. I have a bad feeling about this.